Shalom everyone, welcome back to the Midrash Aggadah Parsha series. Today we arrive at Parashat Bamidbar. And Bamidbar begins in a way that can feel, honestly, a little dry. The Torah opens the book of Numbers with a census, names, tribes, families, ages, camp positions, Levite assignments. If you read it quickly, it can feel like the Torah just handed us an ancient spreadsheet. But Midrash Aggadah asks us to slow down. It says, do not read this opening like paperwork. Read it like a love story. The Parsha starts, God speaks to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, in the tent of meeting, on the first day of the second month, in the second year after leaving Egypt. Why all those details? Why tell us the place, the tent, the month, the year? Why not simply say, God told Moses to count the people? Midrash Aggadah gives a beautiful answer. It says this is like a groom entering the chuppah with his bride and writing a ketubah, a marriage document, and signing it with the time and the place. That is how the Midrash reads Bamidbar. The wilderness is not just a desert. It is the chuppah. The tent of meeting is not just a tent. It is the place where the relationship becomes official. The date is not random. It is the date on the ketubah. So before we talk about counting tribes or camp formations, we need to hear the emotional center of the Parsha. God is saying to Israel, this relationship is real. It has a place. It has a date. It has commitment. And that already changes everything. Because when we hear the word wilderness, we usually think of emptiness. No comfort, no map, no normal life. But the Midrash says the wilderness can also be the place where love becomes serious. That is a big idea. Sometimes we think covenant only happens when life is settled, when the house is built, the income is stable, the plan is clear, and everybody knows what comes next. But Bamidbar says no. Some of the deepest commitments are made while we are still in the wilderness. Israel has left Egypt, but they have not yet entered the land. They are not fully home. They are in between. And precisely there, in the in-between, God says, I am with you. I am binding myself to you. I am not waiting for perfect conditions. And Midrash Aggadah adds one more powerful line. Until now, so to speak, God had not written a ketubah or a bill of divorce. But now God writes the ketubah and not the divorce. In plain language, God is not looking for the exit. That matters because Israel has already failed. The golden calf has already happened. The people have already shown fear, confusion, impatience, and spiritual immaturity. And still, God says, "We are not done. I am not discarding you. I am writing the relationship deeper." That is Bamidbar according to Midrash Aggadah. The census is not the first thing. Love is the first thing. Commitment is the first thing. The counting only makes sense after that. Now, let us talk about the counting. The Torah says, "Lift the head of the children of Israel." That is the Hebrew feeling of the phrase, not just count them, but lift their heads. A bad kind of counting makes people smaller. It turns a person into a number, a statistic, a file, a customer ID, a screen name, a row in a database. But holy counting does the opposite. It says, "I see you. I know your name. I know your family. I know where you come from. You are not lost in the crowd." That is why the Parsha keeps saying names, families, fathers' houses, tribes. It is not counting anonymous bodies. It is counting people with memory, people with roots, people with stories. And that speaks very directly to us because we live in a world that counts everything: views, likes, followers, dollars, grades, steps, calories, productivity. The question is not whether we count. We count all the time. The question is, does our counting lift the head or does it lower the head? When a community counts people only by usefulness, people feel used. When a family counts people only by success, people feel anxious. When a person counts himself only by achievement, he starts to feel worthless on the days he cannot perform. Bamidbar gives us a different model. Count in a way that reminds people they matter. So when God counts Israel, it is not because God lacks information. God is not doing math because heaven misplaced the numbers. The count is an act of attention, and attention is one of the deepest forms of love. To be counted by God means you are not invisible. And when a person finally feels seen, the whole posture changes. The head lifts, the shoulders open, the journey becomes possible again together. Then the Parsha moves from the census to the camp. Every tribe has a place. Every tribe has a direction. Every tribe travels with a banner. The verse says each person should camp by his banner with signs according to the house of his father. Midrash Aggadah leans into those signs. It says each tribe had its own symbol, its own marker, its own identity. Issachar had an image connected with the donkey of Jacob's blessing. Zebulun had a symbol connected with dwelling. Other tribes had their own images too. Now, we could get lost in the details of the flags, and the details are beautiful. But the larger message is simple. Holiness does not erase difference. That is so important. The camp of Israel is not one gray mass where everyone looks the same, sounds the same, and stands in the same place. It is a people made of tribes. Each tribe has its color, its memories, its strengths, its wounds, its song. And still, they are one camp. That is the balance Bamidbar is teaching us. You need a banner, and you need a center. Your banner is your identity. It is your family, your story, your gifts, your way of serving. Your center is the Mishkan, the dwelling place of God. If you have a banner but no center, identity becomes ego. My tribe, my group, my opinion, my brand, my people against your people. But if you have a center with no banner, unity becomes flattening. People are asked to disappear in order to belong. The Torah gives us both. Stand by your banner, but face the Mishkan. Know who you are, but do not make yourself the center. That is a healthy community. And it is also a healthy inner life. Inside every person, there are different tribes. There is the part of you that is brave, the part that is tired, the part that wants to learn, the part that wants comfort, the part that wants to lead, the part that wants to hide. Spiritual growth does not mean pretending those parts are not there. It means arranging the camp. Put the Mishkan in the center. Put holiness, truth, and service in the center. Then let every part of you find its proper place around that center. That is why Bamidbar is not just about order for the ancient Israelites. It is about the order of a soul. Now, the Parsha turns to the Levites. And here Midrash Aggadah gives us another powerful teaching. The Torah says, these are the generations of Aaron and Moses. But then it lists the sons of Aaron. So the Midrash asks the obvious question. If these are the generations of Aaron and Moses, where are Moses' children in the list? Midrash Aggadah answers, Aaron fathered them, but Moses taught them Torah. And when a person teaches Torah to another person's child, Scripture considers it as if he gave birth to that child. That is a stunning idea. It means there is biological parenthood and there is spiritual parenthood. There are people who bring us into the world, and there are people who help bring the world into us. Think about the people who taught you how to pray, how to think, how to be honest, how to apologize, how to keep going. Maybe it was a parent, maybe a teacher, maybe a rabbi, maybe a friend, maybe someone who never knew how much their words change you. According to this Midrash, those people are part of your spiritual family tree. And then the question turns around. Who are we teaching? You do not have to be a formal teacher to shape someone's soul. Every time you model patience, you teach. Every time you admit a mistake, you teach. Every time you take Torah seriously without becoming harsh, you teach. The world is full of people who are spiritually orphaned, not because no one gave birth to them, but because no one is guiding them with love. Bamidbar says, be a Moses for someone. Help someone find their place near the Mishkan. The Levites themselves carry that message. They are counted separately because their task is different. They serve around the holy things. They carry, guard, dismantle, assemble. They do not all do the same job, but every job matters. Midrash Aggadah explains that the Levites are taken in place of the firstborn. At first, the service belonged to the firstborn, but after the crisis of the golden calf, the Levites become the dedicated servants of the Mishkan. That is not just an administrative change. It is a lesson in responsibility. A sacred role is not only about status. It is about trust. It is about showing up when the center is in danger. It is about saying, I will serve, even when service is not glamorous. And there is a detail later in the chapter that is very human. There were more firstborn Israelites than Levites. So some had to pay redemption money. Midrash Aggadah describes Moses using lots, so no one could argue I was already covered by a Levite. It is a small scene, but it shows sensitive leadership. Even in a counting process, even in a payment process, Moses protects fairness and reduces shame. That too is Torah. Not just big visions, also careful systems that protect people's dignity. Finally, Bamidbar ends this opening section with the family of Kehat, the Levites who carry the holiest vessels. And the Torah is very strict. Aaron and his sons must cover the holy objects first. The Kehatites may carry them, but they may not touch them directly, and they may not look at them uncovered. That can sound distant to modern ears. Why so many boundaries? Why so many rules around holiness? But spiritually, the point is very real. Not everything holy can be grabbed. Not everything deep can be handled casually. Some things have to be approached with preparation, humility, and care. We live in a culture that says access is everything. If I want it, I should have it now. If I am curious, I should be able to look. If I feel something, I should be able to act on it. Bamidbar says, holiness is not content. Holiness is not entertainment. Holiness is not something we consume. Holiness changes us, and because it changes us, we approach it carefully. Boundaries are not always rejection. Sometimes, boundaries are what allow closeness to survive. A marriage needs boundaries. A community needs boundaries. A soul needs boundaries. Even the Mishkan, the place of God's nearness, has curtains, coverings, roles, and procedures. Not because God is far away, but because God is near. So, what does Parashat Bamidbar ask from us this week? I think it asks us 3 questions. First, are you willing to be counted? Not as a number, but as a name. Are you willing to let God see you as you are in the wilderness before everything is settled? Second, do you know your banner? Do you know the gifts, history, and responsibility you bring to the camp? And can you hold your banner without turning it into an idol? Third, what holy thing are you carrying? Every person carries something, a teaching, a family, a wound, a mission, a memory, a mitzvah, a piece of the Mishkan that only you can carry in your generation. Do not drop it. Do not grab it carelessly. Carry it with humility. Bamidbar looks like a book of numbers, but Midrash Aggadah reveals a book of relationship. It is about a God who writes a ketubah in the wilderness. A God who counts people because they matter. A God who gives every tribe a banner and still gathers them around one center. A God who lets teachers become parents, servants become guardians, and ordinary people become carriers of holiness. So this week, wherever your wilderness is, listen closely. Maybe it is not only a place of confusion. Maybe it is also the place where God is writing commitment into your life. Maybe you are not lost. Maybe you are being counted. Maybe your banner is already waiting. And maybe the holy thing you are meant to carry is closer than you think. Shalom.